Hey everyone, welcome back. Let's dive into this week's math map. It's all about populations this week. Statistics, probability. We'll break it down, make it easy to teach.
Yeah, and populations in math. It's not just about people. It could be any group with a shared characteristic, like all the penguins in Antarctica.
Oh, that's a good example.
Yeah.
Okay, so like my kid's collection of Pokemon cards even.
Exactly. Or every book on your bookshelf.
Okay, so then why do we even need statistics to study these populations?
Yeah. That's the beauty of statistics. We can use a smaller sample to represent a whole population. So instead of counting every penguin in Antarctica, we just study a small group.
So it's like taking a bite of a cookie to see if the whole batch is good.
Precisely. But here's the catch. To get accurate insights, we have to ask the right questions.
So it's like being a detective. You got to ask the right questions to get the right clues. Okay, so I can see how this would help my kids actually get engaged with the concept. But then there's all those charts and graphs that always seem to overwhelm me.
Visualizing data is really important, but I agree, it can be overwhelming, so choosing the right visual is key. Bar graphs, those are great for comparisons, and pie charts, they're perfect for proportions. And then there's Euler diagrams. Think of them like Venn diagrams, but with more flexibility for showing sets that overlap.
Okay, can you give me an example so I can picture this a little better?
Sure. Imagine you're sorting your kids' toys. Some toys are red, some are cars, and some are red cars. An Euler diagram can show all those categories and how they overlap to give you a clear visual.
Okay, so it's about organizing information visually,
Yeah.
like how a family tree does,
Well,
but for data.
yeah.
I guess now we move on to probability, which isn't just about rolling dice, is it?
No. It's about understanding the likelihood of something happening. And the fundamental counting theorem comes in handy here, which might sound complicated, but it's really just a way to count all the possibilities.
Okay, let me see if I get this. If my kid has 3 different shirts and 2 pairs of pants, the fundamental counting theorem helps us figure out how many outfit combinations they can make.
Exactly. It's a fun way to make probability less abstract and more relatable for kids.
It's amazing how all these concepts tie back to everyday stuff. Makes them way less intimidating. But I gotta say, sometimes I get overwhelmed with all the different approaches to learning and problem solving. Is there a framework that can help?
There's the 5 canons of rhetoric. It's like a blueprint for effective learning and communication. And it applies to math, just like any other subject.
I've heard of rhetoric, but what does that have to do with math?
Think about it. Math isn't just about the numbers themselves. It's also about understanding concepts, solving problems, and explaining your solutions. And the 5 canons help you do all that more effectively.
Tell me more.
Okay, so first you have memoria, remembering facts and formulas.
Got to memorize those multiplication tables.
Then there's invention, finding creative solutions to problems.
What are the other 3?
There's arrangement, organizing your thoughts logically. Then elocution, expressing your ideas clearly using the right mathematical language. And finally, you have delivery, presenting your solutions with confidence, whether you're writing or talking.
So it's like you're giving kids this toolbox to handle any math problem.
And you can apply these canons to any subject, not just math. It's a valuable skill set for life. And here's a cool connection. This week's math map, it actually links these concepts to history and even the Bible. Think about genealogies, family trees. They're all about data and patterns. You know who's related to whom, when they lived, where they migrated. It's all data waiting to be analyzed.
So those family history projects become way more than just names and dates. They're about understanding relationships and trends across time.
And you know the Bible's full of genealogies. But they're not just there for fun. There's a purpose. They establish lineages, trace ancestry, and even help us understand prophecies.
Wow. That's pretty amazing. So we're talking about real-world math here, connecting to history, religion, even cultural identity.
Absolutely. Math isn't just some abstract idea. It's part of our lives and our history.
This is really making me rethink how I teach math. Instead of just drilling formulas, I could show these connections, make it way more interesting for my kids.
That's the key. When we see how math relates to our lives, it becomes more meaningful.
Okay, we've talked about populations, statistics, probability, even the 5 canons, and now connections to history and the Bible. Have we given our listeners enough to tackle this week's math map?
I think we've covered the main ideas and given some helpful tips. But of course, there's always more to learn.
Of course. Before we wrap up, I have a challenge for our listeners this week. Take these math concepts beyond the textbook.
Oh, what do you have in mind?
Think about something you're curious about, your family history maybe, or your favorite sports team, even predicting the weather. And ask yourself, how could you use population, statistics, probability to explore those things?
I like that. Instead of textbook problems, apply the concepts to something you're passionate about.
Make those real-world connections. And suddenly, math becomes a tool for discovery, not just a subject.
So if someone's interested in their family's history, they could use what they've learned to create a visual representation of their family tree, maybe even calculate probabilities about inherited traits.
And if you love sports, you could analyze your team's performance using statistics, looking for patterns and trends to predict future outcomes.
Yeah. Or if you're into weather, dive into that data. Use probability to understand the likelihood of different weather events.
It's really amazing how math can help us understand, even shape our reality. So to all our homeschooling heroes out there, another week of Math Map adventures begins. Keep exploring, keep asking questions, and most importantly, have fun.
Happy teaching!